Hello and welcome to Billy Ho Sports. Kentucky Derby 2024 is almost upon us. We're less than 2 weeks away. Most of all, the contenders have arrived at Churchill Downs and they're getting their first workouts on the dirt. Today's update is kind of some news, some notes, along with new insights on top contenders, maybe some that we haven't covered yet. Do a little profiling on some of these other horses further down the top 10 list and beyond. So, say horse like West Saratoga we'll touch on. I've updated my top 10. I'm going to continue to shuffle that around, some in moving up and down, a few in, few out as we see these workouts. I've been watching the morning workout show every morning and seeing these horses on the track and seeing what they're looking like. And it's kind of exciting building up to the Derby 150, right? So anyway, this video is going to go on the playlist. The playlist is racked up with just tons of videos going all the way back to the 2-year-old season in Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Check that out. Also, as always, please subscribe to the channel. Been getting a lot of good feedback. Comments are always welcome, positive or negative. I appreciate people staying engaged like that. I'm always up for some debate on what you're thinking. And so hit that like button, leave those comments, keep them coming, and let's get after it. Okay, the Churchill Downs backside has been a buzz with the action. Most of the field out there on the track for their first workouts. Some are running hard. Some are taking it a little more easy. Some are not faring too awfully well. Not really concerned with times. You're not going to see me go. I might touch on a couple of horses that had some interesting times, but I just wanted to get a look at them out on the track, and I will show you some video from that. So stick around. Now, the first one I wanted to touch on was some quick news. Common Defense is going to skip the Derby, which will put Grand Mo the First into the race. One other little tidbit. There's probably more news. I'll keep you updated as I go along. But I did hear Jose Ortiz is going to ride Catalytic. So that's just kind of a tidbit there. So I'm going to touch on Grand Mo the First. He was a horse I almost included in my live long shots video that I did a week or so ago, but he wasn't eligible. He was like still 2-3 tiers down. So I left him off. But he is a very interesting horse, trained by Vic Barbosa, sired by Uncle Mo, bounced around with that all-weather and turf as a 2-year-old, debuted on the turf at Gulfstream going 7 furlongs in the swale. Then he came back after that, and he was right there with both Domestic Product and No More Time in the Tampa Bay Derby. He just missed it. I believe he got third, but they were strung across. There wasn't a head that separated all three of them. So then he wheeled it back and finished third once again in Florida Derby. That was more of a distant third. Obviously, Fierceness blew him out that day. But he did have a little bit of trouble at the start, bumped a little bit, saved some ground, was pretty steady all the way, just no match. He wasn't really much of a match for second place, but he was a good clear third, which is not bad. I think I'll show you the odds from Vegas Insider later on. I don't know what he'll go off at Churchill Downs, but he's going to be 99-1 probably or something like crazy like that. So he's not a bad horse to include in your exotics. He does have the pedigree to get that classic distance, but the speed figures that he's displayed in these races are a pretty well below the top flight. So, we're talking horses, Brisnet speed figures, the horses that are running 96, 98s, and 100s. He's running 84s and 86s, things of that nature. So that tells you a little something there. I did want to mention Epic Ride is now on deck, and I give him a really good chance to draw in. We're still up in the air on Endlessly. I got some feedback right away when I mentioned him in my first top 10 video that the connections did say like Asmussen did, just was all about going to the turf. So, but he is still technically listed in the field. He is still working on the dirt. The last time I checked, uh, for trainer John Ennis, third last out on the bluegrass. Oh, wait a minute. I was talking endlessly. I completely lost my place. We'll get to endlessly in a minute. My bad on that. Epic Ride. That's the horse we're talking about. Third in the bluegrass, second in the John Pataglia Memorial. Trainer John Ennis, good looking horse. If he draws in, which I think he will, he might be one of those mid tier 22-1 kind of horses or something like that that can definitely fill in some exotics. So that's Epic Ride. Blame as a sire. His record in 5 starts, 2-2-1. Now, I will talk about his effort in the bluegrass. Was actually low key pretty good. I went back and watched it again. They rounded the turn, and he was in the middle of the track amongst the leaders running hard. But then when Sierra Leone ran by, and he kind of did that big curve over, he kind of intimidated, so to speak, Epic Ride and forced him inside, and then he kind of just lost his place. And it seemed like he kind of gave away right there when he saw a big old $3 million Sierra Leone plowing by him, which that's not great for a 20-horse field to be intimidated by any traffic like that. But with the right post position and right trip, definitely could be in the mix. Now, endlessly, still debate on that, right? The window is still open. Obviously tough to pass up, but Mike McCarthy said he wanted to run endlessly in the grade 2 American turf on Derby Day. His workouts have been very, very average. Steve said he just no ups or downs. He just does the same thing every time he goes out there. He didn't look really great from what the reporting said going around the turn, struggling to keep pace with his workmate. So if he does go, he's going to be a toss for me. I don't like any of those aspects of him, but we'll see what happens. Now, Dornoch, I saw it pronounced Dornoch. So it's one of those Americanized pronunciations versus some sort of European pronunciation. But anyway, he worked 4 furlongs on Saturday with Society Man to his inside. And obviously it come out. I pointed it out. I saw Bluegrass Dornoch being very keen, bobbing his head, not liking being restrained by Luis Saez. I didn't know why he was doing it, but it was obviously trainer Danny Gargan came out and was experimenting with holding him back a little bit off the pace more. But that did not work. Obviously, they will abandon that strategy and they will cut him loose. So if you toss the Bluegrass, he's going to move back up into the top 10. You'll see that in a little bit. So, but I put it out on X, just asking some of the other people in the know that I follow what he thought about that workout, and I didn't really get a bunch of feedback on it. One of them did say they liked the way Society Man moved. I found myself looking at Society Man in that workout more than Dornoch, because he looked really good, and I thought, wow, that's great. Maybe he's coming around. Some of these horses blossom right before the Derby time, and that second place at Aqueduct in the Wood Memorial a few weeks ago at 50-1. He's kind of a horse to keep an eye on, but I don't really think he's going to be a use. You can't use them all unless you're spending thousands of dollars on your exotic bets. So anyway, that's just something to mention. Sierra Leone arrived at Churchill Downs on Sunday. He had a really good looking work at Keeneland on the dirt Saturday. He's just so powerful with his stride. Such a big, beautiful horse. He is definitely creeping right there with Fierceness at 1. They're both 1-2. If it depends on your druthers. If you think it's going to be an off the pace horse, Sierra Leone is number 1. If you think that somebody up front or on the pace is going to win, it's Fierceness. Those are the two. The horse that I'm really starting to warm up to is Catching Freedom. He had a great workout. I saw him on the track again this morning, neck bowed, all business, looking good. He's another closer, but he's trained by Brad Cox. And Brad shared some insight. Uh, he was actually posted, and I'll show this, posted 2 stalls down in the gate from Antiquarian in the Louisiana Derby, who was the one that broke through the gate and caused that all that ruckus. And you can see in the slow motion replay, it caused Catching Freedom to jump, and he banged his head on the front of the gate. And then after the gate broke, he got off just not as fast as he normally would. Uh, but after they reset, and he still got out there, and you saw those fast fractions he ran coming home. So just more narrative street kind of stuff. But rock solid number 3, Catching Freedom in my book right now, behind Fierceness and Sierra Leone. Then we've got Cox's other hopeful, Just a Touch. He worked a half mile under Florent Drouot. He looked really good breezing on the Churchill Downs track. What I liked about his second place finish in the Bluegrass Stakes was it was his first time going 2 turns, and he handled that just fine. He's maturing, growing, improving. I like horses that are improving, horses that are doing new things, making new accomplishments. He might not quite be there for the Derby maturity or just yet, but then you got a couple more weeks to the Preakness, which might suit him pretty good too. So, and further down the road, big stakes races. Another one that looked pretty good to me, Mystik Dan, I've really come around in. He looked good around the track going Saturday morning. And I did mention I didn't care much about speed figures, but this one caught my eye. He 23.8 was a quarter, and then the next frame 35.6, but he completed the 5 furlong work in 59.4 seconds. Anytime I see him going under a minute, it's kind of a pretty good outing. The switch in style, I think, is benefiting him now that he's back off the pace a little more, pressing, stalking. Because when you go back to the Smarty Jones, he pressed the pace back then only to tire late. But off the pace in the Southwest blew him away from the inside rail there. So Arkansas Derby, the effort was good. He started out back of the pack, made his move at the 3/4 pole, closing down the stretch. But the jockey moved inside and then back out. So I think he was just probably no match for Muth, but he was getting there. His sire, Golden Sense, didn't fare well in the Derby himself, but he shined as a sprinter. He won back-to-back Breeders' Cup mile races. Also, Pat O'Brien, 7 furlongs. So that leads me to believe that maybe the classic distance is not what Mystik Dan would require. He might be more of a miler or, just a 9 furlong type of horse. So anyway, he's one to keep an eye on. An interesting horse. He does have that dosage index, if you're interested, of 3, which does indicate a slight disposition towards stamina. So there's that. Next up, I'm kind of flying through these because I don't want to keep you too long. I appreciate you watching. Subscribe and like. Remember all that good stuff. So, Just Steel. He took to the track. Typical 1 mile breeze for the coach, Dwayne Lucas. He likes to do that with his horses. Not under much urging. He looked like he was doing most of his work around like when they hit the first part of that far turn to before they hit the stretch run. He looked like he was doing most of his work, like you're going to be seeing him making his move around that final turn. So I think he's probably the least likely candidate to need a lot of working out. Like he needs to be fitter. 11 starts, and he's had 4 starts this year already. So not the less is more type of horse. He's more is more. But we know his record. He's had a good record over those 11 starts. So next up, Track Phantom. Looked pretty good on the track. Newly added blinkers. Steve Asmussen said he acclimated to the change pretty well. Pleased with the way he was moving. He is so fast out of the gate. But Asmussen indicated that he doesn't think that he's going to put Track Phantom on the lead right out of the gate, but he might just be handed the lead. You never know, because he breaks so fast from the gate. He ought to be able to get his own position. So I thought it was an interesting take that he's not going to send him. But from what I see, classic distance is going to be trouble for him. Other pedigree experts agree on that. And you could tell because, I mean, not that he lost, he still ran a great race when he was beaten by Sierra Leone in the Risen Star. But when he added an extra 16th of a mile, he finished fourth in the Louisiana Derby. So we're going to be tacking on an extra 16th onto that, going a mile and a quarter. So is he going to be able to get that distance? Asmussen is probably not going to be trying to push him so hard in the beginning because I don't know that he's going to be able to get out on the lead and sit on it and get a 48 half mile. I doubt that very much. Resilience is looking good. He was actually worked out Thursday, looked comfortable, confident from what I hear. He was out on the track again this morning running around. They were singing his praises. So he's a guy I might be warming up to a little bit as we approach the racing. But I've said it before about him. He just had way too good of a trip in that Wood Memorial. And so I'm not really sure where I land on him as of right now. Like I said, you can't play everybody. Now, Fierceness worked out last Friday in Florida and looked really strong moving across inside his stablemate, Agate Road. Johnny V flew down there to ride him in that workout, and then he flew right back to Keeneland for the mounts that same day. So he reported praising the horse to Pletcher, said he was looking as good or maybe even better than he did leading up to the Florida Derby. So that's pretty interesting. So we'll see him on the track this week. He might even be out there today. I didn't get to see it, but probably no later than tomorrow. So my next update video, we'll talk about how Fierceness looks on the Churchill Downs surface. And so the next up, West Saratoga, I mentioned earlier in the video, going largely overlooked. But this horse has only been out of the money twice in his 10 career starts. Broke his maiden last summer at Ellis Park, 3 straight runners up before that. He backed up the maiden win with the grade 3 win at Iroquois. That kind of put him on the Derby Trail map as a 2-year-old, but he's just been kind of steady Eddie since then. A bunch of second places, a third place. But these all these seconds and thirds have come in basically blowout wins. Endlessly won, beating by 4 lengths in the Jeff Ruby. He was beaten by Book of Dano in the Pasco Stakes by 12. And even that third place finish in the Sam F. Davis, he was beaten by 6.5 lengths. So he did go 6 furlongs last Friday at Keeneland. He's probably going to be an also ran, but he could be a horse that could finish in the top 10. Maybe a good showing for him. So that's going to do it for the update for today. I'll be out with more information later on in the week. Continuing to grind away at these horses. My top 10 has shuffled, and it likely will shuffle again as we get closer. My top 4 are still rock solid. Like I said, Fierceness, Sierra Leone, Catching Freedom, and then Stronghold. But I put Dornoch at number 5 because I think he might be able to shake off that poor bluegrass effort where he didn't get to run his race. Probably still a stretch to get the win, but might factor in. I moved Mystik Dan into the top 10 because I like the switch in styles. Pedigree does suggest he can get there, so we'll see about that. Less bullish on Forever Young. I keep hearing about how he doesn't like dirt kicked in his face. He comes from off the pace. There's no way getting around. I believe they're trying some different hoods and different things with him to keep him from getting the dirt kicked in his face. But he's also facing, I think, considerably better horses than he's faced before he came over here. Not saying that he's not a good horse. Probably the best Japan horse is sent over. So just less bullish on him being in my top 10. So that'll cover the update. Stay engaged as I'll be grinding over these horses for the next week and a half or so. I will keep you updated on all things Kentucky Derby 150. I appreciate you watching, and we will see you soon.